All right, friendly reminder, tomorrow you have a list quiz. On your list quiz, you get 3 new documents, Federalist 10, McDonald versus Chicago, and Tinger versus Des Moines. Make sure you are ready for it. That's tomorrow. Today we're doing notes, so on the top of your notes, you need to write week 11, it's political parties. So here we go. Okay. So, when we talk about political parties, we are, what are political parties? They are a group of voters. They are a group of voters with common interests who want to influence the government. Okay? They're different than factions. Factions, which of course we talked about in Federalist 10 yesterday, factions are political ideologies that you have. So if I say right now, are you pro-choice or pro-life? Don't tell me. It doesn't matter what it is. In your head, you selected one, right? Hello? That is your faction. If I say big government or little government in your head, you picked one. That is your faction. That's your faction. If I say, I don't know. Well, I think we're good. So factions, write this down. Why don't we make this clear? Factions are political beliefs. And every person has multiple factions they belong to. So you can be a Democrat, but believe in the faction of pro-choice, pro-life. Okay, so you can be a Democrat in every other way, but then be like, on that one particular issue, you differ from the party and go with that. That's what a faction is. A political party, as we talked about, is a collection of voters who all want to influence the government. A political party is a big, write it down, a political party is a big, broad collection of multiple factions, faction beliefs that for the most part the party agrees with. So, if you are, say, pro-life, okay, then you're probably a Republican. If you are pro-choice, you're probably a Democrat, but you can be pro-life and in the Democratic Party. You can be pro-choice and in the Republican Party, but how common is that? It's not very common, but you can do. So there's a difference between a faction, which is an individual belief. You are made up of political factions. Like all of your thoughts about what you believe, who you think is good, who you think is bad, those are all factions. Then they're kind of consolidated into what we call a political party typically. Now, here in the United States, we have a 2-party system. Write it down. Here in the United States, we are a 2-party system. Okay? We're in a 2-party system, which means 2 political parties hold the majority. And minor parties have very little influence. Now, what structural thing helps create this 2-party system? What structural thing that we do here in the United States that creates this 2-party system? Yeah. Single member districts. Write it down, which will lead to single member district elections. Okay, single member districts creates a 2-party system. You have to know that. I would absolutely underline single member districts. Can anyone tell me what a single member district is? Oliver, what's a single member district? Here we go. Underneath it, right? Single member district. You have to know this, ladies and gentlemen. It's the foundation of our entire system. All right. Every state is divided into districts. Every state is divided into districts based on the electoral count of the state. Every state is divided into districts based on the electoral count of their state. So, here in Florida, we have 28 electoral votes. How many districts do we have? We have 28. So, how many people do we send to Congress every year? 28. Do you see how logical this is? It makes sense. Okay, with that being said, inside these districts, write it down. Inside these districts, it's an either or vote. Which creates a two-party system. Okay, because essentially, in order to be on the ballot, you have to have lots of money. In order to win, you have to have lots of name recognition, which also requires lots of money. So it's all about money, it's all about attention, it's all about name recognition, all those parts. That's what creates. So the thing that creates a two-party system is a single district, a single member district. So in Congress, from every, and you should write this down, okay, only one person can win. Write it down. Only one person can win, and that one person represents the district. That's what makes this create a two-party system. Okay, so single member districts are what is going to create a two-party system, and that's what we have. Okay, now your next heading is the functions of political parties. Your functions of political parties. They have to nominate candidates for every election. They have to nominate candidates for every election. Okay? With that being said, to nominate takes a lot of money. So they have to have that. And so fundraising is a huge part of it. They have to inform voters. Okay, they have to inform voters. They're informing them of two things. You need to know this. They're informing them about the candidate. What makes the candidate qualified, right? The second thing, they need to inform the voters of when to vote. Yeah. Yeah, like life is busy. Life is hard. Especially when you have a kid who's a monster. I'm just kidding. He's not the worst, but he was annoying this morning. And I'm a single parent this week, so exhausted. Anyway, with that being said, you're informing the voters about why the candidate's qualified in order to get votes. And then the second thing they have to do is remind people when to go vote. And they spend lots of money doing this. They have to ensure their candidate is qualified. It's called background. They have to do the background on the candidate. Because the moment you put your name out there in a public situation, you know that people are going to start talking about you. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It can't be a bad thing, right? All of your dirty little secrets can come out, yes? Okay? If we say Samantha Bennett is the new mayor of Tampa, there's kind of, I'll probably be, I don't know what the stories would be though. I live a very small life. But once people make it politically, all the stories come out. And if you've been in politics for a long time, you probably got lots of people cranky with you, yes? And all these vicious stories start coming out. Political, is it a good thing or a bad, is it good look or bad look? Bad look. So political parties try to do this before they pick a candidate. Run the background. Every once in a while, it completely blows up in their face. A perfect example of this is George Santos in 2023, right now. He is a congressman from New York who said his mother was in the Holocaust. His grandmother was in the Holocaust. She wasn't. That he graduated from Yale Law. He's never been to New Jersey, I don't think. He has a doctorate from Stanford. I don't think he's been to California, which is where Stanford is. Whatever. He hasn't done anything that is on his resume. He says he ran a major corporation. There's no actual proof of any corporation that he ran or owned. No one knows where his money came from, so that tells you it's dark money, which isn't a good look. But he's still in Congress. Now, the entire Republican Party, from top down, have said this guy should be removed, but they haven't removed him. Why? Why haven't they removed him, Liam?
Because he has power?
He doesn't have power. He's a Congress member. So why is it such a big deal? Thinking about 2023 Congress, what's the big deal? Help him out, Eve. It would give, there's a 5-vote difference. By getting rid of George Santos, they have to put it back in the hands of the people of New York, and the New Yorkers are probably, you've seen it in natural, right? We had a we had a Republican, Trump, now we have a Democrat, Biden. Next election, it could go Republican, it might go Democrat. It usually flips back and forth. So if we send if we send George Santos back to a revote, it could come back as a Democrat vote. And there's not enough margin in order to do that. So the Republican Party has condemned this man, and they'll all avoid him, and everyone hates him, but they haven't kicked him out yet. This is the big problem, and it's a huge issue for the Democratic Party because the Republican Party, because they failed in doing this. Okay, help govern in Congress and state legislatures. It's called the caucuses, the legislative caucuses of the Senate and the House of Representatives. It's called legislative caucuses. As we know right now, Jim Jordan failed his 3rd vote, so he's been out for a few days. They had a huge caucus meeting, the Republicans, yesterday, which means when I say that the legislative caucus means every Republican in Congress gets in a room. They all pile in, all 217 of them. Pile into a room. And in there, they can yell and scream and say terrible things about each other because it's all Republicans, and no Republican would ever tell you what happened inside that room, right? They're not supposed to. Democrats have their own caucus room where they can go and yell and scream behind closed doors, and no one's supposed to hear those stories. So last night, yesterday afternoon around 5, they had a Republican caucus, which means every Republican in Congress stood in a room, and they decided in that room they're going to have 9 new candidates running for Speaker. Would we say that was a successful meeting or a failed meeting? It's a failed meeting if you have 9 people coming out saying, I'm running for Speaker now. Okay? Because at the end of the day, they're supposed to pick 1, and now we have 9 people running for Congress. Okay? So, right now, the Republican Congressional Caucus is in chaos because there's no leader for it, and everyone's just nominating themselves at this point to become Speaker. On the Democratic side, they have caucused about 3 weeks ago at this point because this drama's been happening for 3 weeks. And in this caucus meeting, they decide to nominate 1 guy for Speaker of the House. Now, can that guy win? No, because they don't have the majority. So every single vote for Speaker, what does every single Democrat do? They vote for this 1 guy. And every single vote, they've now taken 7 votes for Speaker. Every single time, every single Democrat has voted for this 1 guy. Okay? So which caucus is intact right now? The Democratic one. Which caucus is being actually led by the party? The Democratic one. Do we see how everyone is unified? Everyone's being told what to do. Everyone is buying into it. That's how it's supposed to work. The Republican Party, whether you're pro-Republican or anti-Republican, that shit is on fire right now. It is a mess. It is a hot mess. Now, do I think they can figure it out by 2024 election? Maybe. It would help if they started with a Speaker. So hopefully they can figure it out so we can have a good running election. But right now it's kind of on fire, and that is really tied back to the party. The party doesn't have a leader. Okay? Because half of the Republicans like Trump, half the Republicans hate Trump. That is your last elected president. That is causing lots of problems for the Republican Party, and they don't have a defined vision going forward, which is causing speaker problems, causing caucus problems, causing organizational problems. Because the political party itself leads inside the House and the Senate. Okay. They are considered watchdogs. Political parties are watchdogs for the opposite party. They are considered watchdogs for the opposite party. Okay. as we know, all this speaker drama started when Floridian Matthew Gates fired McCarthy. Okay? So, he fired him about almost a month ago, which is wild to say out loud. Okay? He got fired. When Gates fired McCarthy as a one-man, one-vote, he kicked him out. His district was fine with it. They were fine with it. It's a ruby red district, aka it's voted Republican since the dawn of time. So Matt Gaetz did it because he thought he'd be safe. Since in the last month, his voters in his district in Florida have started to turn significantly on him. They are very upset. They are very embarrassed. And what do you think the Democrats are doing? They have started putting up billboards in his district along I-10 talking shit about Matt Gaetz and talking about how he has single-handedly sunk the Republican Party. And this is coming from the Democrats. He has single-handedly sunk the Republican Party. He has put Israel in harm's way because most Republicans are super supporters of Israel. And remember, Israel can't get its funding because there's no speaker. All of these things are compiling. And so they're putting up billboards because what are the Democrats trying to do? They're going to run the district. They're investing millions of dollars in Matt Gaetz' district right now, talking all this crap on billboards. They're going to run a candidate there to challenge Matt Gaetz. Because if you can flip a super red district like Matt Gaetz' district from red to blue, you've essentially won 2 seats. You got rid of a Republican, and remember, there's only a 5-seat majority. You've gotten rid of a Republican and you added a Democrat. It's like 2 swing votes. It's a huge deal. So, would the Democrats have done this if Matt Gaetz was still popular? No, because it's a waste of money. If it's a ruby red district, it's not going to switch. It's just like New York City is like cherub blue. Like that sucker is not going red anytime soon in New York City. It's so blue, it's like electric. With that being said, are Republicans spending that much money on it? No, it's a waste of time. That is what we talk about when we talk about watchdogs, is that they are constantly looking for weakness on the other side, and then that's where they throw their money into. So, right now, Matt Gaetz' whole district is being covered in billboards talking about how bad he is because the Democrats are going to run against him. And it will be the first time that district has had a Democratic candidate run in a legitimate way in like 30 years. So like it's a huge deal. Now, does that mean Matt Gaetz is gonna lose? No, but it means he could, and that's what the Democrats care about. All right, so your next heading is party systems throughout history. Okay, party systems. Okay, you need to know the date range. I want you to write down the date ranges. I don't need you to memorize them. Is that fine? Okay, so for 1790 to 1828, the 2 political parties in play are going to be called the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. Okay, you should know the Federalist Party is going to be led by Hamilton. Come on now. And who is the Democratic Republicans? Yeah, Jefferson. If you've watched Hamilton, there's a whole song about it, okay? If you haven't watched Hamilton yet to help you with APGov, I literally can't. I highly suggest it. It's entertaining, and it would help. I'm just saying. Anyway, so Democratic Republicans versus Federalists. This is the first fracture into political parties. Write it down. Put a star. This is the first fracture into political parties. Okay, it's the first fracture into political parties, which is why we care. Okay, you need to know the Democratic Republicans are for strict interpretations. Democratic Republicans are about strict interpretation. weak federal government. Obviously, Federalists wanted a. Oh my God, you guys broke it. You figured it out. Okay? So, Federalists were led by, of course, Hamilton, and they are a strong national government, and they were a loose interpretation. They're also considered the rich man vote. If you're a rich man now, are you voting for Republicans or Democrats? Republicans. If you're poor, you vote for Democrats. That's how we've always measured who votes for who, what party is more popular, is rich man, poor man, who gets what vote. Okay, so those are your first two major political rivalries. Then you have the next date range of 1828 to 1856. So what the date ranges mean, when you have 1790 to 1828, these are how long these two parties are the major rivalries. And then 1828, we're going to start seeing a change. So we now have the Whig Party versus the Democratic Party. Okay, the Democratic Party is going to be all about states' rights. Democratic Party is all about state rights, and then the Whig Party is about national bank and strong federal government. It's during the age of the Industrial Revolution is really kicking off, so the Whigs are all about like organization and stuff like that. All right, this is the big one. 1856. That's all you need to know about those two. 1856 to 1892. What major event is happening? Yeah. Civil War. You need to note that. 1856 to 1892, the Civil War is happening during this time period. It actually goes from 1861 to 1865, which you should know that. How many times is a girl got to tell you the same damn thing? But here we go. We have the creation of what party? The Republican Party is now created. The Republican Party, and who is the founder of the Republican Party? Ash, who is it? It's during the Civil War here, Ash. So who do you think it is? Look at you. Very smart. It's Abe Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln is the founder of the Republican Party. Okay. You need to know, on the other side, you have the Democratic Party. Okay, the Democratic Party are going to be in the South. Oh my God. Okay, so you have the North is going to be your Republicans, the South is going to be Democratic. The South is more the agrarian or the agricultural base, while the North are going to be more the industrialized. Okay, you need to put a star. I should have said this before. Parties evolve over time. Write it down. Parties evolve over time, even if they have the same name. Okay, so the Democratic Party in 1856 to 1892 is going to be your white plantation owners in the South. Today, in 2023, the American South is controlled by the Republicans. So did you see the evolution here? Okay? So just because they have the same name does not mean they're the same political beliefs. Is everyone clear on that? Now, if Abe Lincoln was your founder, would you tout that all the time? Being like, yeah, we're the party of Lincoln. Because Lincoln is like the number one, number two figure in American history. So that's why they're Republicans. But is the 2023 party the party of Abe Lincoln? No, only in namesake. They're totally different from the original foundation. Not totally different, but they're different from the original foundations because has the world changed from 1856 to 1892? Yeah, dude, completely. It's thank God. Thank God. I wouldn't be here with you, and that would be so tragic. Anyway, with that being said, you have the Republicans versus the Democrats. You have to understand, just because we're using the same parties today does not mean they're the same. All right. 1892 to 1932. Okay, we have the Democratic and Republicans, but we're starting to see the shift change. Write it down. We have Democrats and Republicans, but we're starting to see the shift change in party platforms. We're starting to see the party platform shift into modern ideology. Because pre-1950s, the Democrats were staunch white people who didn't want segregation. Today, in 2023, Democrats are proudly multi-ethnic, multi-diverse, all of those things. So the evolutions of these things are slow and occurring. Okay, and then you need to know 1932 to 1968. 1932 to 1968. Okay, this is when you have the most influence from third parties. Write it down. This is when you get the most influence from third parties. And then finally you get 1968 to present, and this is when you have your modern political parties of the Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats are found up in New England. They're found in California. Okay, and your Republicans are found in Texas and in the South. So that's when you start getting your modern political frameworks of the Democrats and Republicans. So 1968, we start seeing those elections start rolling in and go. All right, so those are your evolutions. All right, your next heading is third parties. Tomorrow is a little bit more interesting, if that makes you feel better. Is it? This is kind of the nuts and bolts of how things work. So, when we talk about third parties, okay, our minor parties, you need to know they rarely win. Why do they rarely win, Tatum? They'll never have majority, fine, absolutely. But why won't they have the majority, though? You're completely right, but why?
Everybody, or majority of people are either Democrat or Republican.
There you go. What else, Oliver?
Less money.
They have less money. They have less money. The Democrats and Republicans have all the money split between them, and they both profit billions of dollars a year, which they can spend on whatever they want. It's really, you can't outspend the Democratic or Republican Party. You can't. So, because of that, they rarely win elections. Because if you, okay, another major is they can affect the outcome. You need to know that third party candidates don't win, but they can have a huge impact on an outcome. 2016 is a perfect example. 2016 is Hillary versus Trump. A lot of people hated Hillary. Like, really hated Hillary. The pantsuits were too much, I guess. So, with that being said, they hated Hillary and they didn't like Donald Trump. So they literally voted for a third party candidate because they hated both of them and they just didn't want to pick. So they just picked someone else totally different. Okay? And because of that, we call it a throwaway vote. Write it down. Okay? We call third parties throwaway votes. Why are they called throwaway votes, Katie? So what does that mean? They can't what? They can't win. So if you vote for a third party, they can't win. So you're not picking the future winner. You're picking someone because you really like them. Or you hate the other one so much that you just literally couldn't vote for him. I will tell you, my husband did a third party vote for 2016. He threw away his vote. Okay, he didn't like Donald Trump or Hillary, so he picked a random party, and he was one of the. So what's the impact of it? What's the impact of it, of throwing your vote away? What that means is, and you need to know this, when you do a throwaway vote, when you vote for a third party, what happens is that you are taking votes away from the Democrats and Republicans, which we understand, but that lowers the amount of voters, so they become even tighter elections. when less people are voting for either Democrats or Republicans, the elections become even more tight. Which is why you get weird scenarios where Hillary won the popular vote. She won by like 2 or 3 million votes. I can't remember. 2016, but she lost the electoral college. So even though she won the popular vote, she lost the electoral college, and that is because so many people did what? They threw out their vote. Because if you win the popular vote, you should win the electoral college, but because so many people threw their vote to the third party, it makes the margin super tight, super small, and because of that, we get an upset election, which is what it was. Remember, all the polling was saying Hillary's going to win, Hillary's going to win, Hillary's going to win, and of course Donald Trump won in 2016, and that's what we call throwaway votes and stuff like that. Now, are third parties terrible? No, they're not terrible. They do serve a purpose, and there are a couple good things about third parties. But are they going to make huge changes? They just can't. They can't get the majority. They can't get the majority, which means they don't have the influence. And every time you vote for a third party, you shorten the gap in between the popular vote and the electoral college, especially for presidents. And that's when you start getting like these upset votes and stuff like that. Which, if you like, you like. I mean, if you're a huge Trump fan, you're like, yeah, okay? You're super stoked about it. But if you were, a Hillary fan, you're like completely rocked. Like, wait a second, how did she lose? And it's because of those third party voters. All right, so when we talk about third parties, we have it in 4 different ways. There are 4 different third party votes. We have ideological ones. They are based on social, economic, or political issues like the Communist Party and the Socialist Party. Do we have a Communist Party here in the United States?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. We do have a Communist Party. They're pretty active. They do things. They do protests and stuff like that, but they're not on ballots. Why? There's no government. They're not super hard. They're not idealized communism. They're just to take the wealth. What do you got? No, because that you have to get there. They're just trying to start the work. So we have socialists and we do have communist parties. There's the Communist Party of Florida. There's the Socialist Party of Florida that is part of the United States version. So there are different parties. It's not just the Democrat and Republican one. Then we also have single issues. Okay, right to life. Okay, pro-choice party and stuff like that. They only care about getting women the right to access to abortions and stuff like that. They only care about one thing, like the Prohibition Party was one of the most successful third parties in the history of the United States because they achieved Prohibition. Yeah, they got it done. And after Prohibition got passed and we got our amendment, well, what happened to the party? It disintegrates. It literally just disappears because it accomplished its goal. Okay, and then you have economic protest parties. So, populism, okay, the idea of stop giving money to other countries, to regulate ourselves, get back on our debt. That is in response to our debt crisis problem, which, by the way, our debt here in the United States, we didn't solve our budget problems. You know that. We didn't fund the government. So we've got 18 days until that expires again. But guess what we don't have this time around? We don't have a speaker. So last time we couldn't get it done and we had so now we don't have a speaker and we have to get it done because you can't extend it. How's it looking? Yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty bad. And then we have splinter parties. Splinter parties are when one person becomes incredibly popular that they create their own party. I would not be surprised if MAGA becomes a splinter party of the Republican Party. The MAGA Republicans are slowly getting their back turned by other Republicans. It's what's causing the divides inside the House currently. And I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump creates a splinter party and creates his own MAGA party. Now, they have had some success. Reform Party, the Bull Moose or Progressive Party under Roosevelt was very successful. They got him into a second term and all that stuff. So we'll see how it goes. But that would not be surprising, right, Bronson? Are you trying to see if he's thinking about it? Yeah, I bet you are. So when we talk about third party, the most important one that you have to know is the Populist Party, and that's in the 1890s. This is the OG. This is the original one. The most successful and the original. So, in the 1890s, we're talking full-on industrial revolution. We're talking about, we're about 100 years in at this point. So, we're starting to do reforms, and the Populist Party comes about. They get 8-hour workday and direct elections of senators. Oh my God, they get a lot done? So, are they a single issue or what are they? They're economic. You need to know they're an economic issue. Okay? And they get a lot done. Are we benefiting from the 8-hour workday? Hello? Yeah, absolutely. That's why you're only here for 8 hours a day. You know that, right? Because I need to go home. And I don't want to spend any more time with you. Second reason is we're also training you to work 8 hours. Yeah, we're training you. All right, and then direct elections of senators, of course. Okay, the Libertarian Party is going to be one that's still around. I'm going to teach you about them tomorrow. The Libertarian Party wanted less financial change, so they were tired of all the spending in Washington and all that stuff, and they wanted more social change. They wanted more independence. That's what libertarians are all about. The Liberty Party, libertarians, see what they did there? They want more civil rights, civil liberties. What do you got?
Are they the ones that were hippies?
Yes, they're complete and utter hippies. The state with the densest libertarians is Oregon. And they're like the people who live off the land, like off the grid people. They also don't believe in vaccines, which is why Oregon has the least amount of vaccines, because libertarians don't believe the government should be able to tell you what to put in your body. So that's one of their stances. Which libertarians, a lot of their things got picked up during COVID and became a little bit more of a mainstream with the Republican Party. Those things are coming up. Bye! Whew. Nice job on that quiz today, man. Much better.